Bradley Abbott with Butter Spice and Why Don't You Have a Slice? Today is the continuation of the macro conundrum. This is part 3. Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in and turning on. Now today I want to start off for a recall to the ancestors diet that we previously mentioned in the macro conundrum part 2. And depending on where your research goes, it's slightly different. It was higher in protein last time, if you remember rightly. But the information I have for you here from Dr. David Perlmutter from the Grain Brain reevaluation in his book in that book that came out in 2018, it also says that their diet was actually 5% carbs. Bearing in mind it's not titled as the hunter-gatherer diet. It is just titled as 5% carbs, 20% protein, and 75% fat. Compared to the typical Western diet, which we eat today, you know, what does that say? 20% protein, 20% fat, and 60% carbs. That's the typical Western diet today. Now, I just want to clarify something here, guys. I want to clarify that a lot of people out there think you have to be celiac to be identified as gluten intolerant or gluten allergic. That is absolutely not true. I recently read a piece of research in one of the books that I have, and I enjoy these books because they bring a lot of open-mindedness and healthy arguments, which is always a good thing because you want to challenge that science for science to be the best and progress. But in one of my books, it's quite a controversial book, it said that unless you have celiac disease, basically you don't need, unless you are identified as having celiac disease, you don't need to worry about gluten. Don't eliminate gluten. That is a load of bollocks. Okay. In Dr. David Perlmutter reevaluation, in the reevaluation of the Grain Brain that came out in 2018, and there's loads of research on this, by the way, I'm going to mention that towards the end. It said, towards the end of this section, it said that the gastrointestinal and extraintestinal manifestations of non-celiac gluten sensitivity, this is what was under their symptoms. The intestinal symptoms: abdominal pain, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, flatulence, lactose intolerance. And the extraintestinal symptoms: anemia, anxiety, arthralgia, which is joint pain, arthritis, ataxia, which is unsteady gait, depression, rash. Examples of this could be eczema. You've got fatigue, headaches, irritability, muscle pain, and peripheral neuropathy. These are just some of the symptoms, guys. The list is huge. Okay, it's a massive. And where do we find gluten? In most of our carbs. You have bread, pasta, cakes, cookies. You know, you have certain types of waffles, biscuits. Now, don't get me wrong. This is making my mouth water too. We all enjoy these foods. But you've got to identify of what it's doing to your health. And again, some people can tolerate them more than others can. Some people, going back to that individualism, some people need more carbs. Some people need less carbs. You've got to identify with it with your own body. My purpose here is there are health issues associated with gluten sensitivity, and you don't have to be a celiac to be identified as gluten sensitive. I hope I've made that clear. Now, okay, an example that I'm going to read to you from the Grain Brain here, just to give you guys an idea and open up your minds to some of the one of the examples in dealing with patients. There'll be a couple of segments like this today from different sources. So, I give you an example. Of one person. Okay. It says here that he names them for their confidentiality reasons, so just bear that in mind. Fran struggled. Her name was Fran. She struggled to chase the pulsating sensation out of her head. She had severe headaches, migraines. Fran was pleasant and as pleasant as could be for a 63-year-old woman who endured daily migraine headaches. Of course, she had tried all the usual headache medications and was taking Imitrex, which is sumatriptan, which is a powerful migraine drug. She was taking this several times a week. And in reviewing her medical history, Dr. David Perlmutter also noticed that in her early 20s she had undergone intestinal exploratory surgery because she was suffering from severe intestinal discomfort, and as part of her evaluation, he tested her for gluten sensitivity and, not to his surprise, found that she was strongly positive in 8 of the markers for gluten sensitive. So he prescribed her with a gluten-free diet. 4 months later, he received a letter from Fran stating, and this is what she said: "My almost daily migraine symptoms have abated since removing gluten from my diet. The 2 biggest changes in my body are the lack of a very hot head in the night with resulting migraines and the huge increase in my energy levels. Today my level of daily accomplishment is enormous compared to my life before seeing you." That's quite a statement, wouldn't you say? Basically, guys, there's more to gluten sensitivity. Like I read to you the symptoms before, it affects your body and your mind. And going on a gluten sensitivity diet, going on a gluten-free diet prescribed by a medical professional, helped her migraines disappear. 4 months later, energy levels returned, migraines gone. Isn't that something? And she was, rightly so, absolutely, completely, 100% grateful for his work. Okay? And I want to make something clear here, guys. I am working on my nutritional diploma. I'm nearly completed it, but I am not a medical professional as of yet. So please don't come to me for come to me for advice and nutritional planning, but don't come to me for clinical medical treatment, is what I'm trying to say, through clinical nutrition, because I am not yet qualified. I am going to become a dietitian. I am signing on to university within the next year for the dietetics course at Newcastle University, but as of yet, I am not a dietitian. Okay? I do this to spread the message and because I care about you all. And I want to see you achieve your optimal health. Okay? Moving on. Now, I will state this though. For the people out there who still doubt the resources, I want to make it absolutely abundantly clear that I do not get this from one source. Okay? I'm going to read to you just four references from that particular chapter to give you an idea that this research is absolutely abundant in its publications. Okay? Here we go. First one I'm going to read you. Katie Forster. Gluten-free diet can do more harm than good for people without celiac disease, scientists say. This is from The Independent, May the 2nd in 2017, found at www.independent.co.uk/news/health/gluten-free diet. Harmful people. You get the idea. Second one I'm going to read you. Heather Wood. Motor neuron disease. Can gluten sensitivity mimic amyotrophic lateral sclerosis? Nature Reviews Neurology Journal. 11. Number 6, back in 2015. Pages 308. Going to read you another one here. Okay. Dr. Alessio Fasano of Boston's Center for Celiac Research and Treatments, which is part of Massachusetts General Hospital, has written extensively on gluten sensitivity and the many ways it can manifest in people, sometimes mimicking other disorders. You can visit his website and access his publications at www.celiaccenter.org. I give you another one. Marios had just now. This is a mouthful. Anyway, a guy called Marios et al. Does cryptic gluten sensitivity play a part in neurological illness? This was found in The Lancet, issue 347, number 8998, February the 10th, 1996. Okay? Research is abundant, guys, in all sorts of ways, forms. Books, journals, online journals, newspapers. Okay? Now, we're already on the topic of carbohydrates and how the content of those carbohydrates can damage you internally, majorly. Okay, and I want to add to this. Okay? By just saying that carbohydrates, proteins, and fats make up our diet, make up our eating patterns. And again, it goes back to individualism. Some are more likely to lean towards a higher protein diet. Some are more likely to lean towards a higher fat diet. Some are more likely to lean towards a carbohydrate diet, depending on their environment, depending on their past experiences, depending on whether or not they have symptoms, depending on whether or not it feels like it affects their energy levels and their mood. There are so many factors here, guys. Now, I do want to say this, and it just clarifies something. Anorexia, we're going to add to the symptoms that we saw earlier by Dr. David Perlmutter. This is from Dr. Wallach's book, Let's Play Doctor, and this was published in 1996. Anorexia is appetite loss. And the causes of anorexia can be caused by stress, it can be caused by malnutrition, it can be caused by shock or injury or trauma. Now, it says in this book, anorexia nervosa is thought to be, by orthodox medicine, to be a psychiatric disease. However, it now appears that it is a manifestation of a severe food allergy. You know? So, i.e., you will always, it can always, i.e., I always feel better when I don't eat, or I feel bad when I eat. No matter what the cause is, nutrition helps. And in terms, if there are many thought to be causes of anorexia, however, it can be associated with deficiencies of zinc and lithium. Okay? The way to test for this, if in fact it is a food allergy, you can always eliminate the food allergy possibility if these tests don't work. So, in terms of food allergy testing, you can do it by elimination diets and by pulse tests. Okay? Elimination diets, you keep a track diary, you eliminate that food for a minimum of 2 weeks, and then you gradually reintroduce it back into your diet. If you notice any significant changes in the way you feel, any symptoms, then it's that food. If it isn't, then you move on to the next food. It takes a bit of time to test. Now, the pulse test, you basically take your base pulse rate. You can do this at home. It's easy when you have someone with you. You get a pen and paper. You write down your base pulse rate. Then you eat individual foods 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and then 60 minutes after you've eaten that food. If your pulse rate has increased by 10 points per minute, you're allergic to that food. It's a very old school, boots on the ground homeopathy sort of test. Simple to do in the house and very economical. Diets can be anything from cow's milk, wheat, eggs, corn, anything that will cause that you think will cause an allergic reaction. Okay? Again, these can be from lactose, again, linking to what Dr. David Perlmutter stated. So, just keep in mind, guys, that carbs, fats, proteins, we all need them. Different ratios, though. We need them in different ratios. You know, we need them, the content and the purity of those foods are vitally important because you don't want nasty stuff in your food. Example, if you're going to choose protein, chicken, steak, eggs, turkey, stuff like this, fantastic for sources of protein. However, I wouldn't recommend picking up a couple of tins of hot dogs. See the difference? See the nutritional quality? It's pretty obvious, right? It's going with carbs. Wholemeal bread or gluten-free bread. Or get your carbs from vegetables. Brown basmati rice rather than white rice. Low glycemic index. See where I'm going with this, guys? Just choose. Have wise choices of your foods. All of this is linked. All of it. The hunter-gatherer diet and the diet I mentioned from and the ancestral diet, they're both different from, let's face it, they're both different from what we eat today. And most of that is to do with the food industry. Again, go back to Professor Tim Noakes. I'm going back to Professor Tim Noakes' quote. The food industry pays no attention to health, and the health industry pays no attention to food. And right now, that is the truth. And a wise man once said, "Let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food." We're nowhere near that right now. So just keep in mind your individuality. Keep in mind everything that you're learning on these podcasts. Please take notes. And all I'm doing this for is to try and help you guys. Like I said, I don't charge for this podcast. I don't run ads. The only fee I ask for is that if you enjoy it, please share it with your family and friends. You know, that's it. Now, I'm going to leave you on a little bit of a cliffhanger. Because I think it's important. Now, taking all into account, taken all of this into account, okay? All of it. And this idea actually comes from the Dietetic and Nutrition Case Studies book that I purchased, okay? And it's endorsed by the British Dietetic Association. This is back in 2016. The BDA. Okay? Now I'm going to read this for you. Eating disorder associated with obesity. Maggie is Caucasian, 42 years old. Lives with her husband, 3 kids. Her mother lives nearby, alone and not in good health. Maggie's not keen on having surgery, as she has such a busy life. It would be hard for her to take time away from her many responsibilities. She has never had surgery herself, but has a friend who had a bad reaction to an anesthetic, and that makes her nervous. Maggie's height is 1.64 meters, and her weight on the referral, dated a month before, is 112 kilos. Her current weight is 115 kilos. She is visibly upset and tearful that her weight has increased. She has used a variety of commercial weight loss plans and diets from books and magazines. She is concerned about her health risks that have been found, and her family is worried. She wants to try again to control her weight to avoid surgery if she can, but is not confident that she can achieve any success. It's upsetting. Now, questions they should ask yourself, though, right now, are: what type of anthropometry test would you do? I.e., like your BMI, your weight measurements, your height measurements, your circumference measurements. What information would you require from the blood tests? What clinical information would you seek? What information would you seek about Maggie's history? If you were in her shoes right now, how would you investigate this further? How would you help her? How? That's all for now, guys. I'll see you in the next one. This is Bradley Abbott signing off with Butter Spice. And why don't you have a slice? Peace out.